So I will call the meeting to order for February 3rd. And I did not do this ahead of time. Is there anybody here that would like to volunteer to do the invocation?
I could do that.
Thank you, sir.
Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day, thankful for the individuals gathered here, dear Lord. We ask that you lead our country, lead our state, and lead our county. May we look to you for guidance and strength, and forgive us when we fail thee. Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody sign up in here for public comment? Is there anybody on Zoom that wishes to speak publicly? Going once to speak public? Well, actually, that's twice. Here's that there is no one to. Yeah, we'll do his. So we'll go to the consent agenda. What's the pleasure? Motion has been made to approve. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, payroll change notices. Mr. Keith, moving pay grades, and those are listed, and it'll be effective January 25th. Is this the increase? What's the pleasure on the payroll change notice?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Exoneration corrective tickets,
We have none.
consolidation of land, segregation of land.
We have none.
Number 6, do I need to read all that?
Number 6, do not have any of that.
Okay. Which is consideration of approval of project fund requisition for the payment of costs associated with Charles Point. Okay, so there are none. Number 7, none.
We do have a
Okay.
couple.
Consideration of approval of project fund requisitions for the payment of costs associated with the General Services Administration Building. Project to be financed from proceeds of the Series 2020 bonds issued for the Harrison County Building Commission. Mr. Parker.
I sent this under separate email to the commission. You have one for Sealing and Associates and one for Civil Environmental. Sealing and Associates in the amount of $4,053.12. Civil and Environmental Consultants is $2,237.48.
What's the pleasure?
What percentage of that is left on the bill?
For Sealing, we still owe, get back here. Outstanding or work to be completed is just over $314,000 of a total of $1,362,250.
CEC just a job.
CEC was just additional soil testing.
There's a report attached to that.
No, not to this. There was a report issued to Sealing Associates and Rycon Construction. I don't have a report attached to this requisition for payment to the bondholders.
I'd like to see reports attached to the invoices like that.
All right, I can get that.
Any questions?
No, sir.
Any further questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve has been made. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Review, discuss, consider Marshall County offered to donate 2008 Dodge Caravan to Animal Control for animal transport. Elizabeth, would you like to explain?
Well, they sent me an email. We've sent a lot of dogs to Marshall County. That's one of our big, it's Marshall County Humane Society. That's one of our big places that we send a lot of dogs to lately. And they are getting rid of their van. And she said, would you guys want a van? We want to donate it to you. It's a 2008 Dodge, 70,000 miles, runs fine. It's just kind of stinky because they use it for animal transport. So when I was kind of like, do we really want this? And everybody in my office are all female now, except one guy. They're not crazy about picking up dogs and putting them in a truck. So they're like, oh yeah, it'll be great if we could just slide them in a van. So while we would use it for animal transport, we could use it just for day-to-day operations as well. It will be ours. The thing they told us, the inspection is good for a couple of months. We'll just have to pay the minimum taxes, whatever there is, since it would be a gift. And we'd have to do the plates and all that kind of stuff. But so it's just basically free to us. We just have to accept it or not accept it, whichever we choose to do. We have space for it at the shelter, so it wouldn't be a problem housing it or things like that. But it smells like dogs.
Greg,
But-
have you had a chance to, have you talked about this truck?
He didn't know anything about it until today.
Okay.
I don't think.
I didn't mean to catch up.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right.
So my concern is we put some money into that truck. Are we not gonna use that truck because we can't lift the dogs in the
Well,
truck? Or
We
and are they
still
gonna be
would,
running loose in the van?
well, we would put them in a cage. I mean, in
I
the
mean,
back.
I just have to ask.
Yeah. No, we would never do that. But we would still use all the same trucks. Like each truck is kind of designed for a certain use. Like we have a flatbed truck that we have to use to do traps or, our other trucks. And there are enough staff members that, we could use another vehicle. We don't have to have one, but it would definitely be easier, especially for our smaller female employees who can't really pick them up. When one of our trucks is lower to the ground, but one of them is our Chevy, which is the newest truck. It's like this high to lift the dog in. When you're fighting a not very nice dog on a catch pole, trying to throw them into that big box is not easy. So it would be easier for them to a van, to a cage in a van.
Any questions from,
Man,
okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
What's the pleasure? Do we not have a pleasure? Okay,
Motion dies.
wasn't a motion made, so I guess this becomes there's no action taken? Okay. So we will move on to number 9. Review, discuss, consider a resolution authorizing the application for funds from the West Virginia Department of Agriculture for the West Virginia, is that supposed to be spay, neuter assistance program for
Spray.
adopting all special conditions and assurances contained in said grant.
Yeah, and I actually have on the resolution to spay, not spray.
Okay.
But yeah, this is applying for $10,000 to help assist Elizabeth's department with spay and neutering of animals. Get them ready for adoption.
And this is something we
This
get
is something
every
I
year.
need you to fix your signature, vote on, fix your signature and
But this is, we get this every,
Yeah,
every
we've
year.
done it
Yeah.
for the last 3 years. It's actually a tax on dog food that they started for the Department of Agriculture. They tax like 3 cents to every bag of dog food. And they disperse it throughout county shelters and humane societies, things like that. We've got it, I think, the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's for individuals. It's not necessarily,
And they have to qualify for.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The way we wrote our grant is it's a lower income. We use the DHHR guidelines, for income based on how many people live in the household, and things like that.
There's an application they have to fill out.
They fill it out, bring it back to us, and then we give them the voucher. Previous years, we ran into a problem last year, A, because of COVID, but B, because vets were trying to just get in what they could, their actual patients instead of other additional stuff. So we had only previously used Audubon because they have more vets and could, get animals in and out faster. This year, I talked to Dr. Police at Harrison Central, and he has agreed to take the voucher as well, so that hopefully we can
Spread
get
it
some
around.
more. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the problem really is that if we use too many, then it becomes too confusing for us payment-wise or for the office staff on their end. So we wanted to keep it kind of limited, but he absolutely understands what we're trying to do. The more animals we spay or neuter, the less we have to, come through our shelter. So we want to get as many as we
Spread
can.
it to the various vets.
Yes.
Okay. What's the pleasure? Motion to move forward, and fix signature. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, review, discuss, consider attorney engagement letter for Simmerman Law Office.
This is an up-to-date letter for the
Okay.
current calendar year. Everything's the same except for the date.
What's the pleasure?
Motion to receive.
Motion to accept
And authorize the president's signature.
and authorize the president's signature. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And motion carried. Review, number 11, review, discuss, consider budget revisions, transfers for the general county fund, coal severance fund, vital services levy fund, and other associated financial reports or matters.
This was sent under a separate email. You have a budget revision for general county coal severance and the vital service levy, and then also printouts related to the sheriff's monthly financial statement for all 8 or 9 funds, as well as then the total monthly financial statement. The general county budget revision is adjusting our unassigned fund balance and then allocating additional resources, additional funding as outlined to prosecuting attorney's office for wages, for salary adjustments that were made after the budget was finalized this last year, elections for expenditures and grants associated with the elections department, $75,000 for planning and zoning, bringing that into the rail trail area, $80,000. Excuse me.
Parker, what sheet are you on?
This one here,
This one?
it should attach to it, should be what he's.
Yeah, up at the top, it says fund number 1, revision number 1. And then starts off with 1, 2, 3, 4 areas of revenue being adjusted. And then 1, 2, 3, 4.
Break it out on the pages attached.
Yeah, the pages attached is the detail, yes, that the bookkeeping department would need to make the adjustment. The first page is what is sent to the state, just the overall. But the pages attached are the detail to that revision. 80,000 for law enforcement, 75 of that is new equipment as we adjusted the new equipment line item. As you're aware, we had some additional cruisers and then additional loans. And then reductions in contingencies in capital projects areas to come up with a balanced budget revision. Net reduction of $788,152 overall. Unless there's questions on that, I'll go to the next.
Yeah, I'll start with 299.
Okay,
We went from 6 million, say you decreased it 1,113,000.
yeah, $1,113,152. That was a
How'd that
reduction.
decrease happen?
That was a reduction in our carryover balance from what we estimated. We estimated $6 million when we did our budget. It came in just under $5 million, so we had to adjust our carryover balance down. Then federal grants is an increase. Miscellaneous revenue is increase, and refunds and reimbursements is increased. Some of that relates to the loan that we did for 2 cruisers, which we purchased and then financed through the West Union Bank, and then additional revenue that came in from Rails to Trails associated with right-of-ways.
I'll have a difference in the miscellaneous revenues.
That 75,000 is where we coded the money that came in from the Rails to Trails right-of-way agreements that we execute. I think there were 2 of them, if I remember correct. That totaled approximately $75,000.
They came in from Rails to Trails right away.
Yes,
We not have a line other than miscellaneous to bring in money from rail trails.
no. It depends on where the source is. If it's grants, then it will go into federal or state grants. That's where most of it would be allocated from.
So if you spend this money, it's gonna come out of miscellaneous revenue on rail trails.
No, that's the revenue side. The expenditure side, we do have a line item under planning and zoning for rail trails that's coded for the rail trail projects on
for
439
your expenses.
for the expenses. Yes,
So we have to get this over into that line, correct? 75,000.
yes, that's where down below we allocated 75 to 439 area, which is for the Rails to Trails project.
I think if money's gonna come in from rails to trails, it needs to show that it comes in from rails to trails and goes back out into rails to trails, so we can track that. This is just a miscellaneous revenue that ended up in rails trails.
We can sub-account miscellaneous revenue. We can do a sub-account for Rails to Trails revenue. The state does not have a specific account number for just Rails to Trails revenue. We would have to sub-account, which we can do under miscellaneous revenue.
I think it'd be easier for us to see what money's coming in and going out if we knew where it was coming from.
Okay. That's easy enough to do. That won't be a problem.
Okay, and 401,
401, okay. The net reduction is the 788,152 is where I allocated the net reduction. The first page after that outlines, let's see, there's 1, 2, 15 line items that delineates either increases or decreases amount that account that nets out that $788,152.
that's one on your second page, county commission.
Yes. Where it starts with additional wages, overtime, postage, rents, advertising, professional service, other fees, capital outlay for buildings, another GSA project building, senior center, garage project that we finished up out at 19 South, the 609 West Main Street, the airport properties, the Allied Thrasher property payment, and then a reduction in the overall capital outlays, moving some of that money up to those other line items.
So the capital outlay of 500,000 was to cover the items above it.
I delineated set a sub account for all those properties so we could see, instead of just having one line item covering everything, that way we can see the detail for each property purchase. That's the reason for, like the garage at 19 South, there was a separate line item established for that project. We didn't finish it up last year, so it carried over into this fiscal year. Some of the HVAC projects at the Senior Citizen Center, and then the other property purchases, we've had. But moving that capital outlay money, instead of just having one line item, so there's some detail as we move forward.
Why did our wage line go up 190,000?
That relates to the Scalapio settlement. That's where that was coded to. Instead of taking it out of law enforcement, it was coded to 401. And associated cost associated with that payroll related cost. The overall was
Can we do a sub
200 and some thousand.
on that so that if you look back, you just don't think it's wage increase, but it was
We can do that. Yeah.
wages for, I mean, in budget time, it shows up that now we're at a revised budget of $1 million, but in reality, we're not. Without something to show,
We can
don't
do
remind us, or we all don't remember why we did it.
We can do that.
And why are professional services up?
Those relates mainly to legal fees. For example, we had approximately a $35,000 expenditure for We the People. We had some expenditures associated out of the assessor's office as it relates to Robinson Grand and Graylock on some taxability rulings, legal fees associated with that, but that is the vast majority of those items, as well as looking where we are percentage-wise in relationship to the end of the fiscal year, to carry forward.
And we handle all professional fees for all the elected officials, and is in their budgets.
That, yes, for those items.
Again, is there a reason why we can't give a sub breakdown on what each elected official is costing us?
We can break that out, the elected officials' budgets if the commission desires. In the past, the commission's not had the desire to allocate that funding to the constitutional office
I'm
line
not
items.
saying allocate it to them, I'm just saying, at least give us a breakdown.
Oh, sub-account under the county
Sub-account.
commission? We could do that in the future, yes.
So that we know in the future what is each one costing us.
Yeah.
Okay. That's, that finishes our county commission.
Okay.
Questions? Prosecuting attorney, the increase in wages.
Associated to the increase for the assistant prosecuting attorneys, that was allocated after our budget was approved in March of last year before it started in July of this year. There was allocation or adjustments made in the pay grades for a number of employees in that department. So that's the wages and associated payroll cost with that.
Elections.
Elections relates to some of the grant line items or grant funds that it came in and additional expenditures we've had in that area as it relates to the elections. For example, the school board levy election increased in that area. So bringing money, just basically allocating money to cover the expense we've already had.
The school board not have to pay us for any of this work we did.
Yes, they have.
They've already paid it.
Yes.
Where did that come in at?
It would have come under the miscellaneous revenue line item or refunds, reimbursements. I'd have to look and see how it was coded. May have been refunds, reimbursements, probably Probably refunds, reimbursements,
I understand
382.
my confusion that we're not gonna refund it back to, so it shows it comes to the elections.
I
It'll
understand.
show in a different place, correct?
Well, your revenue codes are different than your expenditure codes. That's how the state sets them up.
I mean, it doesn't show on here.
Yeah, the revenue codes are different than your expenditure codes. No.
I understand that it's not the same code, but if you don't break down your revenue.
You can sub-account those revenue line items, yes.
I mean, it sounds to me like we just like to take money and throw it into a fund, and when it comes time to spend it, figure out how we're gonna break it down and then decide where it's gonna go.
Well, on the front page, the state, they don't go to sub-accounts, they just go to
I don't care what the
382.
State does.
Yeah. But to get it
I
to,
wanna know where the money's coming in and where it came from, where it's sitting, and then I wanna watch it go back out to where it's supposed to
we
pay
can,
out.
we can sub-account that within our records. We can sub-account those revenues and expenditures.
Because see, I'm seeing $189,000 increase. You're telling me some of it's been covered.
Yes, and most of that is the new equipment line, yes.
Grants and
Most of it's new
Reimbursement.
equipment line item materials that the state covered, yes.
from the help, HAVA and CARES and
Yes.
reimbursement from the Board of Education.
We have not broken those down in the past, we can though.
I think we have those numbers.
It's just a matter of sub-accounting them.
I mean, I don't disagree with sub-accounting some things, especially grants, so we know what's coming in and going out.
So there was an increase of 189 because of the levy election and other items,
It's not, so
but it's not actually, she's been covered for part of the 100. The clerk's office been covered for part of this 189.
We'd set our normal, what I call our normal election budgets, back in
What's the actual increase?
the 189,000.
That's what,
That's the additional, our original budget, it shows on there $206,074. $206,074.
for the poll books
Yes,
that was taken out of 413 and there was not money in 413.
correct. The commission approved the purchase of the poll books, and I think, I
I
don't
understand
remember.
when I see this, it doesn't.
I understand that
I mean,
completely. I get it.
that's
But this is just what goes to the state.
Yeah,
I
now,
mean,
the
this is
state,
what we're, this is what he has to send.
the state we
This is
send,
what we get too.
Well, but you can ask for the other.
the state we can sub-account outside in our line items, but the state, you have to deal in their parameters,
Just have to dig a little deeper for it, what
Yes.
you want.
which we can
Which can be
sub-account and
done.
get that
done.
information. That's not a problem. But the vast majority of that new equipment was those poll books, and I don't remember how much they were off the top of my
We
head.
got a grant for those.
Yes.
didn't
Yes,
They were 125,000.
okay.
And we got a grant from CARES. Also, we got reimbursed from the CARES, if I
And
remember correctly,
Yeah, we actually got the money up front, and we actually got more money
for
than
the poll book.
But-
for the poll books. And
Right.
then so we got a little more than what the poll books came to, unless there's more invoices to come through. So that's probably something we'll have to address, but
But we can sub-account as much as the commission desires on our records.
So it looks like you had to put $189,000 in, but in all actuality, a lot of that was grant.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I mean, you're saying you spent 189 as an increase, and there probably was $10,000 increase.
Yeah,
It
but
was covered.
yeah, we have,
then we should have, I don't know why we didn't bring it back, the money back in on the other side of the 206. When the money came in, it was there, so why wouldn't you change 206 budget numbers? Instead of putting it into some other account, miscellaneous or somewhere else?
Well-
Why wouldn't you increase their,
We are increasing the expenditure. You have to increase the expenditure line item under 413, which is elections, and then the individual line items to that. But for the revenue, there is, unless we sub-account, the state has no election revenue. You know, it would be grants, and then you would have to sub-account those grants, which we do many times on this federal and state grants, or miscellaneous revenue or reimbursements or payroll reimbursements. We can have a sub-account for, you know, as much as we want, but for the state, this first page, they do
Those are
not
the only
do
numbers
that.
they have.
That's the numbers they operate with.
that doesn't make it for us to understand where our money's going. State may like it because it makes it easy to do
I understand, yeah, it makes it easier on their end.
come in and do a report on us, but it's not giving us real numbers. Okay, so we've gone through this first one.
All right. Coal severance it's just,
Where's that one at?
it's fund number 2. Revenue, assigned fund balance, 600,000, increasing that $287,010. That's just the carryover amount that we had as of July 1st. And I'm allocated that to the 401 expenditure line item under coal severance. Is all that has done. It's just adjusting your fund balance to the actual amount and then allocating that expense or those additional revenues under 401 county commission under coal severance.
So you carried over 600 from the previous budget.
600 is what we estimated. The actual was $887,010. So we had to do a revision to increase that up to the actual carryover amount. The other one, vital service levy, is this form. There is no state form. The state only does general county and coal severance. Vital service levy, there is not a state form for it. It is just a local revision. Additional $241,000. That's to increase. If you remember when we did our budget last year, part of that process is each line has a specific amount that is allocated to those line items. Courthouse security is where that 241,000 additional revenue was allocated. Most of that being for additional for the part-time expense we have. The original budget was $180,220. When we did that, there was a note on the budget sheet that we would have to do a revision and add additional funds to get throughout the year, which we're doing here now with the 241,20,000 or 200,000 of that is going to that area, and then another 20,000 associated with payroll related cost. The others, the OEM, Ambulance Authority, Animal Control, Parks and Recreation, is just transfers within their area. If you'll see, the department net revision is 0 at the bottom there. There's none of that. It's moving money within their areas. For example, the Ambulance Authority, the allocation to the EMS, various EMS agencies is $639,190. That's what the levy election calls for. The Ambulance Authority Board throughout the year makes sometimes expenditures. Through January, we've processed $2,124. So we have to move money from the allocation line item up to materials and equipment line item that they purchased. And then when Ms. Jones does the monthly reimbursements, then you take that reduction in the allocation into consideration throughout the year. So if there's additional expenditures, then we'll move more money out of allocations up. Animal control facility is $2,100. And then courthouse security went over. Parks and recreation, just moving 5,000 from printing down to travel.
These numbers are through July 1 to.
July 1st through January,
Through January 1st.
and then through the end of what's been processed through January. I don't know if there was any that hadn't been processed, but
Says courthouse security, this $200,000 increase. Does that get us through to the end of the year? Or
Yes, that should.
come back?
no, that should carry us through to the end of the year based on my projections.
So why is there an increase in equipment between now and the end of the year?
We'd spent, and I didn't go back and look, and I don't remember off the top of my head, $14,220.44 in that line item that was not allocated. So that's the reason for the $20,000 there. But through on the part-time security officers, through January, we'd spent round numbers, $173,000. Have just under $7,500 of an unencumbered balance as of the end of January. So that 200,000 should be really more than sufficient to get us there.
I have no other questions, Susan. For this.
Next.
Those are the budget revisions, unless there's, I have other information to go over, but the budget revisions is the only item that would require a vote and for the presidents to affix their signature to the resolutions.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the budget revision.
Motion.
By the administrator.
Motion to approve revisions as explained by Mr. Parker and affix signature. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No,
Okay, please note the 2 and 1. Okay.
The other information that you have relates the various funds. You have a copy of the December 2020 financial statement from the sheriff, and then individual printouts for those funds. Just a summary printout, basically from July 2009 through current for revenues, expenditures, cash balance, fiscal year to date revenues and expenditures. And then you have the complete sheriff's financial statement for December is what we have. I don't know if you have questions on individual funds or what you're looking for as it relates to financial or other financial reports or matters.
criminal justice fund belongs to the sheriff, does it not?
No.
That belongs to us.
Every fund on here,
Concealed weapons fund doesn't.
concealed weapons is under the control of the sheriff. We track it as well as the assessor's valuation fund. You have no management or oversight of those funds of the printouts I have here. The community correction fund, the county commission is the fiscal agent on that. Concealed weapons is under the control of the sheriff. The assessor's valuation fund, of course, is under the control of the assessor. The vital service levy fund, we went over that budget revision, but that allocates there. Then you have the community improvement fund, which is the gaming income is where the revenue sources of that. The home detention fund is fund number 008. And then the 911 fund, fund number 7. COLA severance fund number 2, and general county is number 1.
All right, with Mr. President, I'd like to start vital services fund.
Would you like to know?
I'd like to go over what we're doing on a monthly basis and the expenditures. Now we've gone from 2.5 million in revenues, but only spent 1.5, and then we're 2.8 only spent 1.7. So why we did not cancel out the revenues to expenditures?
Of course, the vital service levy has a specific amount that you must spend in each category. And we may be bringing in additional revenue. In all likelihood, we probably are, because we, just as in the general county fund, we budget for a 5% exoneration refunds uncollectible. Normally, it's not that high. And then tax discounts, whether we budget 2%, it may or may not be at that 2%. So there's and then of course, then the assessor's valuation comes off the top. So there's a 7% allowance that may or may not be. Most of the time, we're going to be below that. So there's some additional revenue, and I haven't done the research to see where we are, but that's, one reason. Another reason for the expenditures being lower right now is, for example, Parks and Recreation. Most of their programming, all of their programming, in all intents and purposes, was canceled. So, those expenditures were not made for summer help. Is a lot of that money, $250,000, $300,000 or something, right off the top of my head. Now, that revenue cannot be transferred to other areas. You eventually will have to spend that as it relates to parks and recreation. It may be another year, it may be increased funding next year, whatever the case may be, but it has to be spent in that area.
Voted on what was on that ballot.
Yeah, and the auditors do track that, and we track that also. Excuse me, on an ongoing basis. So the vital service levy money is spent in the areas it was allocated for as per the vote. Due to the pandemic, it may be, next year or the year after, but maybe this summer. It depends on what's going on. But that's one reason the expenditures are lower.
Do you have a sheet that shows what each one of them's received this year? Is that up here?
No, you do not have that. I can get that. I didn't break that. Each month there's an allocation from the tax office to.
Do we get that on a monthly basis with the minutes from bookkeeping? Do we get something that we could look at?
You do not get anything from like the Parks and Recreation. What we have is the monthly financial statement that shows the allocation to the vital service levy. And then we have our budget that we've set that I can print on a monthly
So
basis.
does she give us checks that are written each month? And don't we attach that to something?
Tax office.
No. Bookkeeping that would show the expenditures.
Oh, the expenditures, yes. I mean, those would
Not
be,
the revenues.
that would
The
be,
revenues, that wouldn't be
the
separate.
revenues are not separated by department. It just, the tax office does poof into the vital service levy. And then the budget on the expenditure side allocates that revenue. So we can do a printout monthly on that. That's not a problem. Yes.
And make that part of, at least once a month for the agenda, to be
Yeah.
able to look at where that money's going.
We can do that.
You can do that when, once a month, when the sheriff's department sends, this is once a month. And then John, every week, at the clerk's office, as you know, Susan, every week with the minutes can send us. Everything we have here today, we can get once a week or once a month. Because it's.
Except for the sheriff's financial statement.
Right, that's once a month.
That's once a month, yes.
By the 10th of the
Once a
next-
month.
by the
Yeah.
10th of the next month.
Yeah, usually it's,
Supposed to be
Then
like
the clerk's
behind.
office with
Yeah.
the minutes does the
yeah, we can do a
Every
budget
month.
print, we can
every
do it
week,
every day. I mean.
Yeah. but it's with the minutes every
Yeah,
week.
I mean, yes. We have, with the minutes is the
Right.
checks that have been cut that,
prior,
from those funds
from 1 week to the.
from 1 week to the next. We can do a budget printout every month. That's not a problem. On general county, coal severance, vital services, any other funds you want. I mean, I'll do those three at least.
I personally haven't had time to digest all of these. I have taken an overall view of them. I have no questions at this time because that's a lot of numbers to take in. And I appreciate the printout because I'm old fashioned and I don't want to look at the screen.
I understand. I'm the same way. You'll also be seeing, these during our budget time and when we, so, it'll,
And thank you for putting this together, Willie. I know that.
not a problem.
Any further questions? Comments?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I could comment probably on the whole system forever. I know that the previous commission asked to come up with a new accounting system 3 or 4 months ago.
But then you dropped that. You thought it wasn't, I forget what your words were. I can't remember what it was. Then you changed your mind.
Oh, man.
I mean, I'm all for looking into it. I was when I was clerk, but we were kind of busy last year. So,
We're always busy.
or we were extremely busy last year. Let's put it that way. Okay, are there any more comments or questions on what Willie put together?
I would just like to see a better breakdown at the next meeting to know where these monies were spent.
I believe he said he would
I will
do his best.
I'll do a budget printout and get that available for everybody. Which will have more detail.
So are we ready to move on to number 12?
Number 16.
Why 16?
Yes, he's looking.
Oh. Mayor Kowalczyk is on Zoom. Do you all have a problem if we go ahead and take care of that? Take it out of order? Which it looks like he's on the phone now. There we go. Are you okay with that, moving 16 up?
Hello, thank you.
Go ahead, Mayor.
How are you? I wrote to you as clerk about a year ago about our ward boundaries match up with the county precincts. Those precincts were set up in the 50s, and that's when we had a large concentration of people in the downtown area. Since then, of course, we have East Shinston, South Shinston, and the West Side, to where those are bigger wards, bigger precincts. Voter turnout downtown is low. We're having trouble finding people to fill that ward's council seat. Currently it is filled, but there's not as much interest out of the downtown. So what we want to do is move these boundaries, balance out. Half of our downtown is considered East Shinston by the way that's laid out now. If we move these boundaries, it'll balance out. It'll take some out of East Shinston, which is our biggest ward, move it back to the downtown. Hopefully bring in some folks that might be interested in running for council and balance out the power of our wards.
Is that all you have to say?
That's it. I'll answer any questions you have.
I have none because you and I have spoke about this on several times. I don't see any reason not to do it because it makes it a lot easier for the county. And John, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You are well versed in this part of your job. It's easier to follow the ward lines versus having county precinct lines and ward lines. People won't know where to go to vote. They'll be confused. So I'm in favor of moving the lines and readjusting them. The voter population is well within the parameters of the code. I don't know, John, if you want to say anything?
I would agree. I think they should be kept so that nothing is split. Everybody's getting the same ballots unless they're not supposed to, of course. The boundary changes are pretty minimal, and the numbers in the precincts are, speaking of, they are skewed a hair, and it will help bring them more in line with one another, so you don't have one precinct weighted with, considerably more voters than another.
We have two towns or cities that have wards, Cheston and Salem. Any questions of the mayor from the commission?
Yeah, me.
Mr. Hinkle?
No, ma'am.
I will entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you all.
Okay. Number 12, review, discuss, consider supplemental agreement 1 for Harrison County North Rail Trail Phase 1 Recreational Trail Program Project, State Project U317 HAR RI-6.00. Who's up for this?
This is just moving funding from the current grant that's doing some construction on the southern rail trail to the northern rail trail and allowing it to proceed. The southern came in under budget, and they're desiring to move this funding to the northern rail trail project. Unless there would be other questions, I would recommend approval from the commission.
Charlotte's shaking her head, so I guess it's okay.
Yes, she has been involved in talking to the state on this.
Motion approved.
The motion is made to approve.
Can I ask what we're moving the money for and what it's gonna be spent on?
Ms. Schaefer can give you the details.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Why are we moving it? What's it being spent on? I don't see that in
It's not in the agreement, no.
the agreement, so what keeps us from?
Well, in the
What
past,
controls the
we
spending?
were able to add things on. Like if they were doing a part of the trail, and if we had extra money, we were allowed to add things on. Where now we're not. So whatever they said they were gonna be doing, they're doing, and that's it. And it came under budget. So the money that they have left over, they want to take it, put it to the north, because they wanted to go a little further with the north than what they had.
The state controls, as if you're familiar, recently with these grants, they made a change where we actually sent our matching money to the state. The state handles the bidding, the state handles processing the invoices, the state handles, making sure the work corresponds with the bid documents. And, but to accomplish this, they're moving part of our match money. That's why it requires the agreement of the county commission.
They're moving our match money, and does it say what they're gonna do with our match money?
Do you have a list of what the Northern Rail Trail, what they're doing there, Ms. Schaefer? Or
I do, and I can get it. I can get that.
So basically, it's whatever's in this fag. Is that correct?
Correct.
Susan, I would like to,
Because, I mean, it says the federal funds for construction phase is increased by $26,000.
Yeah, if we can ask, we can delay this to later in the meeting if you so desire, and we can ask Ms. Schaefer to go get that information. Because the state is basically waiting for this last piece to award the additional contract.
has Mr. Zimmerman been supplied this to go over?
It was in our agenda packet. I didn't provide a separate, under separate email.
I
Not
can,
supposed to go over all agreements that we're gonna sign? I'll make sure I understand when and when he will not be looking at agreements for the county.
Well, we have an agreement in place for the Southern Rail Trail and the Northern Rail Trail. And this supplemental agreement, just moving money from the Southern to the Northern Rail Trail due to the underbid, the project that came in under bid on the Southern.
the northern came over bid.
Yes,
So what they're gonna do is take that money that's from the south and help the north with that bid.
I'm not familiar with the details of the project. I have to defer to Ms. Schaefer on that.
And how much of this money has come from the county coffers that we're talking about transfer?
20, or is our max 20%?
Yes,
They're moving a total of 33,000, just $33,555.84. So 20% of that would have been county money that's being moved
20% from the original.
from the original payment. Yes, that went towards the Southern, but now we're moving to the Northern, or that's their plan. Otherwise, the Northern project could not move forward because there's not funding there for it since it came in over bid.
My question then is to Mr. Zimmerman. Have you had a chance while we're sitting here to look this over?
Yeah, Commissioner Hinkle, I looked it over in the context of the agenda and the source documents. To me, it looks like a change order effectively to the May 11th, 2020 underlying contract, which I have not reviewed, but to the extent it's just reallocating funds, I certainly don't see an issue with it. If you want me to review the May 11th, 2020 underlying contract in the context of what I view as a change order, I can do that.
My only concern is it's county money to a sense and we're not saying how it's getting spent.
Understand, and that clarification would certainly be helpful. If we can get it today, put it in the record, take a look at it, that way you have it for your consideration.
I'm fine with that. It's up to the other two commissioners.
Get as much information as you can. and
We'll ask Ms. Schaefer to get that information, bring it back later in the meeting.
Thank you. Okay, we will return to 12. Get more information. Number 13, review, discuss, consider Casto Technical Services quote programming changes and system improvements, Harrison County Senior Center. Is that Mr. Parker or Mr.?
That'd be Mr. Dale on these as it relates to what we're doing.
These are updates to the system that we did upgrades on this past year. There was a lot of problems down there with the heating and cooling. It was all the time, and we were putting Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid on it. And this is an enhancement. So what we had kind of talked about before, it would be nice to have the capability here centrally to view their heating and cooling issues like I can do on our current system here, as well as the GSA building when it gets up, to kind of use this as a hub. And we've got different things installed down there, a VFD, for instance, trying to save on electric costs. So the way that goes, when that unit fires up, there's a spike in the electric, and that's what we get billed at, even though after that initial startup is done, it may run down here the rest of the, until it comes on again. So the way the power company does that, they bill us at that peak. This VFD is a slow start. It winds up so it's not grabbing all that electric on the initial start. Some of this helps that to be better. And we could then look at their system. It's not connected to ours, but we can get on there and review it, because I've been on the phone a lot with Mr. Short down there. We would be able to look and see what issues they're having, and could possibly go ahead and address them. They would still have control. We're not taking control from them. But right now they're operating everything manually in their different zones. And in this process, we were also able to find that there was additional heating source above the office area, because there was continual complaints that it was cool down there. And that's why we didn't know that there was an issue there. So the Casto and Harris folks have been great to work with. As soon as I call them, they're on the spot. So they've helped us out greatly with Parks and Rec. Animal control is ongoing problems down there with the heating. We've had issues a few years in a row at Parks and Rec. We've got this resolved at the senior citizens building now. This makes it more user friendly. And I think it would be a good thing to proceed for, even in the future, as if we upgrade the Parks and Rec system, it's more of a residential heating system, but there's a possibility to bring that online. So we can centrally look and see what's going on with these individual things. So that's really what this is: software and updating.
Two proposals together, just at $9,350. That'd be part of the senior citizens line item that would fall into the budget transfer. Assuming it was approved, I made allocations for that in the budget transfer. Then if not, then the money would have been there for other purposes, but that's where that'll be coming from.
So your levy money.
No, general county fund. It'll be coming from the general county fund. The levy money has already been allocated to the senior citizens this year. They've
That goes to the various satellites.
except for the satellites, yes. The satellite expenditures, satellite or senior centers based on their members, and then the senior citizens themselves, we've allocated their allocation they've received for the year totally.
Because that is our building as well.
Yeah, so this will be coming from the general county fund under the budget revision that we've approved here previous in the meeting the commission did.
Or you have a line item for maintenance on the senior citizen building?
Not a specific line item for each. Now, if there's an HVAC project, I've allocated that, but routine maintenance, no. We do not have a line item for routine maintenance.
Any questions? I have no questions.
So we'll make the motion that allocate 9 items for item 13 and 14. That's the total.
If yes, 9,000, just at 9,350 is the total.
Is that okay, Madam President?
And yet what you told us takes in both of those items, correct?
Yeah, he was talking about iView initially.
Yes, I kind of lumped them together there when I was
Okay.
talking about what it is.
Make sure that we got the full picture before we.
Yeah. When he was talking about being the hub and viewing, that's the iView quote associated
And I
with
know
it.
this was mentioned in the board meeting the other day, and they're very grateful for what you've been helping them do down there too.
Yeah, they're good people, and it was just a bad situation. It had been let go
It's been-
forever. And it was tough. I felt bad when we would get called because I just couldn't go. It's not something I could go to Lowe's and buy and drag it up the ladder on my shoulder and plug it in. So thanks to the commission, they're up and running, and you know, with their ballroom and with their office areas, that helps with the zone heating. And I talked to Mr. Short, and we got the information so Casto could look at it. And they went down there and talked to him a couple weeks ago. And there's some other work that needs done. Some concrete work, some cracks, some wall stuff. It's nothing major. They should be in good shape now.
Motion to approve item 13 and 14 for the money stated to the senior center.
Any further questions? It's been moved to approve items 13 and 14 for the amounts so stated. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, we've taken care of 16. Okay, now, number 17, consider consolidation of voting precincts.
15.
Oh, sorry. Too many marks on my paper. 15, review, discuss, consider approval of transfer of leave for approved policy. My question is, each time we add names to this, is that why it's appearing on the agenda?
Yes,
Okay, just want to make sure.
you are correct, Madam President.
Okay, even though they come from a different retirement, it doesn't matter.
They're all under the Consolidated Public Retirement Board
The deputy
programs.
sheriffs, do they have their own retirement? Is that all?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
That's considered the same.
Yes.
Okay,
Now, there were some individuals that were not eligible because their previous service was not under the Consolidated Public Retirement Board programs.
I think just, we'll be quiet. Said my piece on this. Okay,
Motion approved.
Patsy makes a motion to approve. All those, any questions, Mr. Hinkle?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now can we go to 17? Review, discuss, consider consolidation of voting precincts. I know I've had a discussion, Mr. Hinkle and I discussed this, and I've discussed this with other people even prior to me taking commission. I did not realize when I was clerk that we only need one more less precinct to be able to only count 2 precincts at a canvas. And so that is why this is on the agenda. And if John would like to, he's taken a look at this and he has some, or a recommendation as the county clerk.
My initial recommendation is precinct 78 and 80. They're both in Northview. The physical locations of the polling places are literally 3 blocks away, literally 3. It's where I grew up. The numbers will still maintain, you know, a reasonable amount per state code and election code as that, you know, you can't go over X amount of voters. So we're within the boundaries there. It will help achieve the goal we want to reduce by 1. I don't think it'll place too big of a burden on one precinct. Worst case, we'll adjust accordingly and maybe add another poll worker or 2 if we need it to make sure things run smoothly. But we have other precincts currently that are much larger, so I think it's not an issue logistically.
Are there any questions? Mr. Hinkle? I know we've looked at other precincts and there are some that you can combine.
I'd like to see more combined, get us down to 1. if
That's not
possible.
gonna happen.
I'll ask John to look into
Oh,
that.
excuse me.
The
Okay.
issue that comes into play, and we can look at them, of course, the issue that comes into play with rural ones, there's language in code that says if it places undue hardship. So that's obviously fairly vague that people could or couldn't argue. So I don't know if there's more clarification on what constitutes unfair or undue hardship. But that's just something to consider for rural places. I mean, I think the same way. Some of them are very small. It's just when you look at actual precinct maps and you see this sliver that's this long, some folks could probably make a successful argument that I have to drive 10 miles when I used to. So that's just something to consider, but there probably could be other possibilities to look at, but that's that's the main reason I picked what I picked for the recommendation.
Is there a motion to be made on the recommendation, or do we want to leave them the way they are? Yeah. You think it's gonna help? What it will help is it reduces the count for the cameras. That's what it helps, and I'm with John, I don't think it will be a huge hardship on those. I think we have 3 precincts there at one time. Cut it down to 2, this would cut it down to 1 for that area. And I'm sure popular voter registration has dropped over there as well. So,
Would you be, could you give them, I'm gonna agree to do it. Would you at least give us a ballpark idea what it'd be to send everybody a letter?
Okay,
I think it's important that they know.
that's
oh,
part
we
of the,
have to.
that's part of the
You
deal.
have to. We
Yep.
have to publish it. I mean, there's a process.
Yep.
This is the first start of the process.
Right.
Yeah, there has to be publication,
Good.
notification.
Yes,
Everybody has to get a new voter's card. That's effective.
but it's got to be published for once a week.
Yeah, every single person in there does get notified.
Because they have a chance to come in.
Okay, motion approved.
Okay. Motion to approve the consolidation of those 2 precincts. There are no further questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Okay. Number 18, review, discuss, consider preliminary timeframe for vital service levy and mass transit levy.
I was looking at the calendar. I don't know what, the idea the various commissioners may have. Would be my suggestion, we take a look at an October election this October on probably a Saturday and work backwards from that timeline. Normally, it's 80 to 90 days. 90 days is a good estimate where you have to have everything done and published and out and the final call all drafted. So, mid-October time period would be my suggestion to take a look at. I didn't know what your initial thoughts were or what you were looking at.
Let's meet in the middle, because I was thinking May. So
We don't have
We
enough
don't have
time.
You're thinking October.
We don't have enough time. I was looking at getting done with the
You
budget.
need plenty. You don't need that much time.
I think you're gonna need that much time to be done by July time period. Because you'll have to be done by the middle of July at the latest time period for a middle October. I mean,
Second Saturday in October.
I
If
mean,
not, then you'll just have, I don't think there'll be an issue.
Second or the 9th, Will?
what's that?
The 2nd or the 9th? October 9th or 2nd?
We can, one thing I looked at, which is not finalized yet, but whether it matters, is the WVU home schedule, but evidently they're away all pretty much the whole month of October, according to the preliminary numbers at this point.
Everybody, anytime you have something, you always look at the.
Yeah. Right now, they're scheduled to be away during October, 4 weeks in a row or something like that. So we can look at the 2nd or 9th.
Tentatively, does that work? Mr. Hinkle?
Hey, shoot for it. I'll just shoot for the month of October at this point.
Motion to
Tentatively,
tentatively schedule
work
that
towards
in the month of,
in
can you give
October.
us a date next week?
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Pick a Saturday.
Okay, I will do that.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, no opposed. Okay. Number 9, motion carried. Number 19, review, discuss, consider order relating to delinquent or unprogressed estates hearing date and time of March the 10th, 2021 at 10:45 a.m.
Part of the correction is you're just considering the order today. We're not setting a hearing date. That's That was premature on my part.
That's what
Sorry
I
about
thought.
that. So we do have the order for all three commissioners' signatures. So the only thing you're doing today is an
So
order.
they can publish and give the people time. and
Notice.
then-
Yes, then we'll set
After
it,
30 days, we can set it.
then we'll set a hearing date. Yes, so
So I
today is
thought, but
just,
I wasn't gonna question.
yeah, today is just the order.
Okay. Motion to approve the order so we can get these published and move on.
Motion approved.
Okay, the motion has been made to approve and fix signatures, right, to the order. All those in favor signify by saying, and there will not be a hearing date March 10th.
No, there's no hearing set at this point.
It's just to fix the signatures to the order. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, review, discuss, consider having the planning department to review and provide assessment on activities, minutes of public service districts.
That topic was requested to be added, and it was my thinking or reasoning that the planning department dealing with, land use, and then in conjunction with grants, which is the other item, but in
You wanna take
conjunction
these
with,
two together?
it's up to you.
You want to take these two items together or separate? Let's do them separate.
Okay, but, planning dealing with, project specific or, what PSDs are doing, because that was one area of concern, I think, at the last meeting I attended, at least. I don't know about the last meeting, but of trying to get the minutes improved, trying to get the communication and written documentation improved from all public A, get it from all public service districts, and B, get it improved. Currently, we're not getting it from all public service districts. We've tried. And we're going to be visiting them. But we've sent, letters to all of them asking for their minutes, asking for information, providing examples on the next topic of, financial templates. But it's whether the commission would so desire to have planning department take the lead on assessment of activities and minutes and communication as it relates to those activities and projects.
Would this be on a weekly basis?
Probably a monthly basis. I mean, it would be on a daily basis for the staff, but a report to the commission on a week or a monthly basis, I would think, or maybe some each week, however the commission would like to proceed. I think we have 8, 9 PSDs. We went through the list. I had a meeting with Ms. Schaefer and Ms. Jones and Ms. Tompkins earlier this week and went over all the public service districts, as well as, pushing and maintaining that project or the timelines for, some mergers and consolidations that are currently in process.
Susan, as far as reports go, monthly's fine, but if there's something that they see is coming up, I would hope that we could get notified on something important, that they're about to do something that's gonna catch us off guard. So I think I would like for that to flow, definitely a report monthly to let us know what they're up to, but if they're about to jump off a bridge, I'd like to know.
Couple weeks in advance.
We'll also ask the department heads to include it in their weekly reports that is sent to the commissions also, but we will. And then if we need to highlight something during the meeting, we will, and then provide a monthly report to the commission during the meeting.
We just haven't found that magic bullet yet
Get it moving.
to get decent reports and financials. They just, Mr. Parker has a lot on his plate to sit there and hound them on a daily basis. I'm not saying planning doesn't, but she's got a staff. She should know what's going on with these people and where they're wanting to put sewage and water. We should have some kind of input from planning on what's gonna happen there. So I think that's a good move to get planning both feet into it.
There you go. Okay. entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Move to approve planning, reviewing, and providing assessments on activities for the PSDs in minutes, or trying to get them in here. That's not exactly what it was.
Close enough.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. No opposed? Okay, motion carried. Now, review, discuss, consider operation maintenance funding agreement with the, 21. Review, discuss, consider having the grants and special projects department to review and provide assessment on financial reports of public service districts.
We just did that. We combined those two.
No, we didn't.
No, she kept them separate, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was.
As a part of, the follow-up, Ms. Jones, in working with grants and financial information, has some expertise in that area, as well as Ms. Tompkins, individual we hired to be Ms. Jones' deputy, has an accounting degree and has expertise in that area and previous experience, in accounting. So my thought would be for Ms. Jones and Ms. Tompkins to take the lead on financial reporting and trying to get the PSDs to where the financial reports are what the commission, what they should be, but as well as what the commission would desire and their citizens, need to have. Some of them are lacking at the present time on the information that we receive. I'm not saying they're lacking at their level, but at the information we receive is lacking.
Move to approve.
Been moved to approve. Consider having the to have grants and special project department review, provide assessment of financial reports and public service of the public service districts. All
I'd
those-
like to add grants to that too. But they review some of the grants that these guys are going out for.
I assume the financial would be the grants as well as operational.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Can I go to 22 now? Review, discuss, consider operation maintenance funding agreement with West Fork Conservation District.
This is a continuation of an agreement that's in place. It's the exact same agreement that we have in place right now. Just
Oh,
with
that's for
the
the
Salem, yes.
Any discussion on this? What's the motion to approve it's a funding, right?
Yes,
Okay.
And we raised that over the years.
that was raised last year, yes.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. No opposed, motion carried. Number 23, review, discuss, consider staffing plan for courthouse security.
Have in your agenda a letter from Chief Laddie and Chief Miller as it relates to recommendations of moving an employee up, Robert Matheny II, to a pay grade of 11.6, and then Dave Harris, a current employee, moving him up to 11.2, and then leaving that position David Harris has right now will be considered at a later date if need be.
Say that again for me, Willie.
The recommendation, really three items. Recommending promotion of Robert Matheny, the second, to a chief investigator's position at 11.7. David Harris to promoted to lieutenant of security would be the title, which moves him up to Mr. Matheny's position. 11.2 is the pay grade, and then Mr. Harris's current position be left vacant at this time and considered during the budget process. That's the recommendation from Chief Laddie and Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller's here. If you may have any additional questions, he will try to answer.
Any questions?
Are you replacing something?
Okay. The one thing I would like to say is on that third position, and I do have a hearing aid problem. So, but on that third position, we've been having only trouble getting a midnight turn guy in court security. Of course, we've had a rough time with the illnesses and everything of everybody, but we were looking to possibly putting a full-time guard, full-time, if the commission would so desire, on midnight shift, get a midnight guy that would actually work 5 nights a week. This is the shift that we have a very hard time filling. This is a shift that doing everything that's went over the last 7 or 8 months. We've had to utilize our security. We've had to utilize the deputy sheriffs. At last resort, we utilize a deputy sheriff because we had nobody to maintain the midnight shift staging. We've also utilized the jailers. It's they're a little bit of a slack period with everything that's going on, and they've loaned us a guy. What I'd be requesting to see if you all would consider putting a full-time position at, what it is, starting out, it'd be a grade 4, step 1, which would be the 32,000. What we're utilizing now by paying security is about $46,592, and that is without benefits. The 46,000 is without benefits because security does not get benefits, holidays, and things like that. A full-time employee would, but it is the position that we've had a very, very hard time filling. Nobody wants to, most of the guys are retired and most of the guys don't want to, nobody wants to work midnight shift.
But you're not asking that now. That's not in this letter. The only reason today, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, is to promote.
Yeah, on the letter itself is the 2 items.
Okay, and then we can look at that other.
Okay.
I would recommend we look at the other during budget process.
I'm
But
sorry.
my question, Rick,
Yes.
what's the vacant position of chief investigator? Whose
Okay.
position was
When
that?
Chief Barnhart retired, I was moved into the chief's position. At that point in time, we did not have personnel who had the time that could fill in the next, to move into my position. Now we have the personnel in the bailiff, in the 2 individuals that have the time that could fill, to take that position and carry with it.
But Rick,
Yes.
you promoted somebody already to do your duties. That was the reason for somebody getting promoted in the past.
Okay, run that by me one more time, sir.
Asking. You
Has somebody already
You
been?
already promoted somebody one time to do your duties. That was the reason for the promotion that we agreed on as a commission, remember? You took,
Okay, I took Chief Barnhart's position,
right,
right?
but then somebody got promoted to do your position at the desk in front of the law masters themselves.
Okay, as the
That
bailiff, right?
responsibility has been allocated. That was for the promotion in the past.
And he has been, he has been assisting in that. That is correct.
Not assisting, he's actually taken over the job because that's why we promoted him the last time. That's
Right, he's
yeah.
my assistant.
David,
in-
help me here. I'm not sure what we're promoting to. When you're vacant, you took
Okay,
one and somebody else got promoted to do yours.
So
well,
basically
we've always
this is
had 2
filling
bailiffs.
Barnhart's
I'm
place.
sorry.
Is that what you're saying? But you took Barnhart's, which you're
I
saying
took
now
Chief
left
Barnhart's
something
position.
open.
My position was, to my knowledge, was never filled as chief investigator, right? I was to assume both jobs and carry everything on. That was my understanding. And we had the two bailiffs. And unless I'm displaying it wrong, that was my understanding of it. It wasn't like a dual promotion.
What the commission may want to consider is get more details and take a look at this during the budget process.
Yeah, I think that's,
That would be agreeable.
yes, it's agreeable to, I mean, well, I wasn't here then, so I really can't speak to what happened previously.
You were here previously.
But I believe they weren't going to fill that position. Is that what I remember recall?
Right, and that's
Okay.
why we promoted.
And then what happens when Dave is sick in family court? You're already short people, but how are you gonna fill them?
When family court is short, like if there's two courts going on at the same time, we fill that position. You have to be a certified law enforcement officer in order to be a bailiff to go in the courtroom. And most of the security officers are not certified law enforcement. We're certified, but we're not certified up-to-date law enforcement officers to go into the judge's courtroom. And the deputy sheriffs come up and relieve, for whatever purpose need be. They fill right in.
Well, you guys want to do.
I know the conversations we've had in the past, but if you're saying we need this, I'll support it. But I do know that this is a
I
conversation
mean, I would like to learn more about.
that I've had.
What they invested
And I know
in.
I wasn't the only commissioner that was in part of it at the time, because we all
Okay.
went along with it.
Okay, and we're talking about the staffing of the midnight.
No, no,
No, okay,
we all
okay.
agree that we're gonna have
That's
to
not
hire a
on this
full-time
letter, so
person.
we'll look at
for
that. as
midnight.
well.
Okay.
We have to
And
do
it's-
that, because you
Okay.
can't fill it. So we understand you have to do something about it, because nobody wants it.
Well-
But at the same time, full-time is more appealing to somebody with benefits. That's why we're considering it. But the others, and David, Willie, maybe I am imagining something.
I think we need, table it, and I think this, and I'll defer to council, but I think this really needs to go into executive session and figure out just exactly what we're trying to do.
Would you mind going to executive session with this?
I don't have a problem, because I don't believe I was in the meeting when the
Okay.
decision was made, to be honest with you. And
Can we do that today, Willie, after we get done?
Probably I'm sorry, Trey, on the.
Yeah, we can certainly go in pursuant to the attorney-client privilege. It relates to an item, pardon me, that is on the agenda. If you all want to discuss that personnel issue there.
I think it's
But
a
if-
personnel issue.
But if you want to gather some more information first and table it, we can do that as well. It's entirely up to you all, but on proper motion. that would be
I think let's table it.
Okay.
and Come back next agenda and look at having that information go into executive session to discuss the information that we can get. And then come
and I
back.
apologize if I've confused things by putting them both
Maybe I'm
together.
confused.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe it's me.
Okay, so are you making a motion to table, David? or-
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Motion has been made to table this item till next week so we can gather more information, possibility and likelihood of going into executive session. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition, motion carried. Review, discuss, consider the employment of a.
Madam President, it's 11:30, past 11:30.
Of course.
I understand that. I know. Do we want to recess commission meeting to,
Here.
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
I'd like to recess for 1:00.
I can't. Okay.
We have to do the board review and
All we need to
equalization.
do is just see if there is anybody here.
Okay, do we
do
want to
not have any
recess the
discussion.
commission meeting to take care of the board review and equalization of the, and then come back to the two items that are left? I would like to see us do that so we can
Let's just
move on. Is there a motion to recess the commission meeting?
Motion to recess and open up the other meeting and then reconvene after adjournment of the board meeting.
motion as stated. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
To my knowledge, Madam President, there's no appointments scheduled for Board of Review and Equalization unless Mr. Romano or his staff would have anything that I'm not aware of.
Okay, so we will open the Board of Review and Equalization for February 3rd. Mr. Romano is here on behalf of the Assessor's Office. There is no one, he advises us that there is no one to appear for this today. Is that true? Okay, so I can entertain a motion to recess Board of Review and Equalization until
I'd have to look, I don't.
until the next meeting. Okay, somebody got, okay, motion for that as stated by myself. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
That would be Monday at 10 o'clock.
okay. Okay, now, review, discuss, consider the, let's go back into session.
Motion to reconvene.
Okay, motion's been made to reconvene the county commission meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Now, 25. Review, discuss, no, 24. Review, discuss, consider the employment of a county engineer. Okay.
That item was tabled and it was requested to be moved up to an action item.
Anybody want to speak to this?
Only that in one of items 20 and 21, even more so, I believe we need to follow suit with hiring a county engineer.
What's the pleasure?
I'm still trying to understand why we're discussing hiring an engineer. And what type of engineer. And what the requirements are for this engineer. And what's expected of this engineer. Can't believe we would just vote to hire an engineer without any information on why we're doing it, what their job will be.
I just think the engineer would be able to help planning and move us forward with all our projects throughout the county, from everything from cleanup of dilapidated property, as well, and also including, drainage on the rail trail with the investment we're making in it. It could have helped us last week as well, I think, with what we were talking about on 279.
How could they have helped us on 279?
Well, much like, we have the county attorney now, we're going to have somebody that's going to be able to point us in the right direction to work with, they'll be able to handle anything they can within house, and then if not, then they'll be able to reach out to others and come to us and explain to us why. Same scenario.
So the engineer is just gonna be to help to explain things to the
Now, he's going to
commission?
help planning move things forward.
What things with planning are we gonna move forward with an engineer?
We're going to move forward with three biggest factors when it comes to rail trail: drainage, where to have our in-house people ditch, put drainage, pipe, tubing, whatever, and also help us with demolition, also work with PSPs so that we can follow the trail where they're moving forward and what they're also taking in consideration when it comes to new projects.
PSDs have their own engineering firms.
And we just decided that we'd like to follow their trail.
I guess I find it interesting that a county like Kanawha County contracts out any engineering services where necessary. They don't have any staff, because they don't have any building codes or zoning codes. Mon County contracts engineering they don't have one on staff. Putnam County, they have an engineer, but they have building codes and zoning. And they make sure the standards and protections are in place between to protect the residents and commercial properties. Jefferson County didn't call back. Berkeley County has 2 engineers hired by the county. One does commercial building reviews and one does soil and erosion and grading because they have building codes. Wood County hires their engineer out, so I'm trying to figure out that all these counties that are just growing in leaps and bounds don't have an engineer on staff. And when they need it, they contract it out because they have no zoning or building codes. All they have is a permit system. And we're wanting to embark on hiring somebody at $100,000 to $150,000 a year to oversee ditches on the rail trail.
We also have, according to the USA Today, the 10th fastest growing city in the country within our county, and they have an engineer. It has benefits.
And they
It
have
has everything from
zoning.
mapping, it has everything from growth, and they're gonna continue to grow, and the county can too.
They have zoning and building codes. We don't have those.
But we have a lot of dilapidated that we want to clean up, and the county people want to clean up.
And this engineer is going to make it so we can tear buildings down.
No, but he can sure help us.
How?
Because he can help us with the bidding out for the demolition. He can work with contractors, he can seek money, he can seek funds.
The engineer.
Mhm.
So before we do this, is this gonna be spelled out that this what this person's gonna be doing? Am I gonna see a job description, or is he just coming in willy-nilly to do whatever? I'm happy, I'm not trying to make it hard, I'm just trying to understand what the guy's
You're
gonna do.
you're not making it hard at all. I know the
I mean, I
county
look
needs
at all these
someone.
other counties, we don't even have up-to-date, and approved, up-to-date, rules and regulations for our subdivision. We have them, but we don't do anything with them. I'm just trying to understand what this engineer, what miracles that you think he's gonna pull out for you, that if you'll check with Trey, we don't have any teeth in our demolition of homes because of the way that this commission went. We took the easy way out. I think if you guys have listened to what other ways it could be being done, we could put more teeth into it. But an engineer is not going to make or break whether you can take a building down. And an engineer is not going to go out there and tell you, we're not going to give him the equipment. I mean, you could just hire somebody to go out and tell you whether a piece of property can be developed or not. A heck of a lot cheaper than hiring somebody. So I guess my
Is there a
question,
way to look to see what we have paid in contracting out engineers versus hiring a full-time engineer? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there.
well, Susan, we probably can, but I guess you'd have to break it down. Is this engineer going to be your surveyor? Is he going to do your abatement inspection? I mean, because you have to understand, we don't have any control over where any water in this county runs, or what anybody does with any land. And having an engineer tell you that's wrong, doesn't matter. You can't enforce it. And if you ask planning, they'll tell you, biggest nightmare is they can't enforce anything that gets built in this county. And having an engineer to look at you and tell you the same thing just seems kind of crazy when there's all these firms around here and we want to support the local businesses, why we're going to bring one on staff.
I think if we'd had one, David, it almost paid for itself just with the new building we bought for the police department, sheriff's department.
If I'm gonna hire somebody, if I'm gonna hire an engineer, at least I have out spec out what I'm hiring. I mean, that's all I'm
Can you
asking.
come back with that information?
Just tell me what we're looking for. Because as much as we can sit here and discuss it all day, some of these counties that have been doing this for a long time realize that it takes a civil engineer to do one kind of work and an engineer to do the commercial work.
But that's everything, specialized from a doctor to an attorney, but there's certain kind of
Well,
welders.
Berkeley County, Berkeley County is
In the
a
right
growing,
direction.
Berkeley County is a growing county. I want us to be a growing county.
I mean,
I'd tell you to go hire 3 engineers tomorrow if you put in the stuff that gave them the teeth to make sure this county was developed right.
it's just moving the county forward. And we're not doing that.
Hiring an engineer is not moving the county forward if you're not gonna give him any teeth.
We were so praised at what we did at Sun Valley, and then it stopped.
Praise for what, Sun
The
Valley.
cleaning up at Sun Valley. And it stopped. And it died. And we held on to that and it was over. We have to have people around us that can tell us what we're to move forward, and we don't have that. And it's as simple as that.
Somebody will have to explain to me what was being done at Sun Valley that got stopped.
It didn't get stopped, it got done, and we got praised for it because they were so happy we cleaned it up. And then that was it.
What did
There's,
we
there's,
clean up at
there's
Sun
hundreds
Valley?
of pieces of property like what was out at Sun Valley that we cleaned up. There's hundreds, and the county citizens would love it if we made a conscious effort to clean them up. But we did one and we stopped. We cleaned Dirty Dave's up. Definitely because the citizens beat the crap out of us for it. You guys.
Trey, if we had building codes, how fast could we clean up the county with an engineer that could come in and determine properties were unsafe? Could you bring that information back to us?
I can take a look at zoning codes, I can take a look at the major minor subdivision regulations and those type of issues if you all want me to.
But with building code, without building codes, we can't send an engineer and say something's unhappy.
Quick answer without looking at it, we have staff now at the planning commission who can testify, and engineers' testimonies certainly would have some more weight to it, and engineers do often have different specifications, i.e. abatement specifications, experiences, which are helpful. But I'll look at it. One thing I would like to see just from an engineer in terms of the spec, if we work on a spec for the job, is to have an engineer who is also a dual surveyor, because that would be helpful for us at times based upon what I've experienced. And some engineers are grandfathered in as surveyors and engineers, and some are not. So there's some practical things to look at.
I don't argue that at all.
So do we want to come back next week with this? With Trey looking into it and making some type of, putting something together for us, the benefit, you know.
Yeah, I'd like to work with you all to create the spec collectively to the extent I can work through Mr. Parker to do that, for you all to take a look at.
I think if you work with Mr. Parker, and I think
Mr. Treecost?
and the 3 of us can give input into what we think that we're looking for out of an engineer.
Is that fair enough? I know we're kicking the can down the road, but I still want to make sure we do it. You know, hopefully we can come to a resolution here. Okay, so we will put this on the agenda for next week.
Yeah, I would request if commissioners have what they're looking, their idea of what they're looking for in an engineer, duties, responsibilities, just send me an email with those and I'll work with Trey to get something put together. You know, just as a point of information, we do have the subdivision regulations. We're going to be bringing those to the commission to for taking a look at adoption and final approval. That's been a year or more process to get
I
that
saw
accomplished.
somewhere. Saw that
So-
in your report. Did you have it on your report?
Yeah, that's, we've been working on that, so we will be bringing, I'll get with Ms. Schaefer and get a timeline outline for that, for the commission's consideration.
Fair enough.
And I do know planning and Mr. Simmerman have been working on, are currently multiple properties under review. It's not that we're not doing anything or stopped. It's a process. The courts have stopped. And that with the courts stopped, we can't proceed in some of these areas. The courts have stopped those type of hearings mostly.
Can we not look at changing the way we do it and going back to taking people before magistrate court? And begin finding them on a daily basis?
So there are two, say, nuisance procedures within the statute that a county commission can utilize. We elected one of the options because the reality or the concern is that unless we take people ultimately to circuit court, we're not able to get effective remediation. But the way the process is designed is we, as a public entity, certainly try to work with people and give them every opportunity to correct it themselves, because we don't want it at the end of the day being something that's, you are spending money on in court. They're also taxpayers, so we try to work with them to the nth degree, honestly. And we don't, I never want my clients to end up being the insurers of property, of dilapidated property within the confines of their control, which is unfortunately what happens, because we end up with demolition and remediation liens, which are not collectible, or they're really of limited value because these properties aren't high resale properties anyway. But certainly we'll look at it, look at the structure of it, yes.
Where you at on the property on Route 19, Trey and Hepzibah? With the family that's willing to give the property over, but has a $3,200 lien on it.
Yeah, Hart has a medical lien from Fairmont General Hospital. The attorney who put the lien of record is with Spillman Thomas. We've reached out to Spillman Thomas to see if they can work back to Fairmont General to waive the lien, and we haven't gotten anywhere on that as of 7 days. But we did do a lien analysis. We made some contact. We reached out. If you all took the property, you would take it, your lien would be second in priority, subject to the attached medical lien, because it's still valid. It's within the 10-year window. It's a 2013
13, that's what I saw.
13 lien. So that's where we are.
So could I make the motion and have it an agenda item that the three of us decide if we're willing to take on the lien? And then should you give them the waive it, then we don't. And then if we have to, we simply pay it to get the building tore down.
You all wouldn't have to technically satisfy the lien. Your lien would just be second in priority. So if the property was ever sold, Fairmont General would
Would
be,
get paid.
and I guess it's probably not even called, is it still called Fairmont General? But I don't mean to misspeak.
Oh,
But Fairmont General would be paid first, and you all would be paid second if the property was ever sold.
So again, do we need to make that an agenda item, the three of us decide to go ahead and move forward so we can whack it?
I think the current structure, I think planning, working with legal counsel can bring, working with the property owner, bring back an agreement if that's the case, if they're willing to donate.
And then we can.
And then after that has all been finalized, I think is when the commission would need to take action to make sure that they're saying, yes, we'll give it to you, but signing at the bottom.
Circumstance.
I'm not saying they wouldn't, but
It's a work in
I think
progress.
before we sign, we need to know what it's gonna cost to remediate, if any remediation, what's gonna cost to take the building down. No point in signing an agreement for a piece of property that's gonna cost another $100,000, $200,000.
We've been working on this since August, so maybe we'll get a little closer.
Okay, so everybody knows what we're doing. Okay, Number 25, review, discuss, consider purchase of used truck for maintenance department, parks and rec.
Now, Willie, let me make sure, because I get confused sometimes. I've already said it. I'm gonna do the budget in 4 weeks, right?
That's fine. If there was, discussion from, as Mr. Book and Mr. Comer on their reports of purchasing a new truck off a state bid. And then we have correspondence from our director of maintenance. I just wanted to make this an agenda item. A, if you want to look at new, B, if you want to look at used, B, if you don't want to look at all, or C, and be doing this during the budget process.
I want to put in the budget process, please. If the other two want to wait till the budget process.
I'm not sure I understand. The new budget doesn't start till July. Are you going to purchase these trucks before the July budget goes into effect? The new trucks?
That's not what I want to do, David. I want to wait till July 1st because as we have stated, the vehicle that we're replacing had 100-some thousand miles on it at the beginning of last year's budget. So it should have been in last year's budget. It didn't get old overnight. It got old over 20 years. So that's the point. We've got to get more within the budget. That's why you're seeing all the budget revisions that was brought up at the beginning of the meeting, because we're not working the budget. We're just throwing money as needed, and that's how come the budget has a lot of revisions.
Could I explain that?
I make a motion to purchase used vehicles before July so that both departments have the ability to fulfill their duties to the county, not to succeed $15,000 for each vehicle. Parks and Rec needs something to deliver for summer program. Maintenance needs to be able to get out and take care of rails, trails, and other properties to mow. And I don't think that waiting till July and then not getting vehicles probably till August, then it's kind of pointless when the summer's over. So I'd like to make a motion to tell staff to go out and find a couple of used vehicles.
Can I just thought of, is this gonna be it? We want a truck, we want a truck, we want a truck. I think this, within, I don't know how long, it hasn't been very long. How many trucks have we bought for the maintenance department? Can we not take a look even before and not next week to see, hey, this is what we need. This is what we're gonna need. Possibly if you need to get something now, do a needs assessment. And then put what's can wait
That was
in a
done,
budget.
Susan.
Susan,
Well, we're back again wanting more trucks.
Madam President, we can put these in the budget. We can order them and we can pay for them July 1st. There's no rule that says Willie can't start looking, the administration can't start looking for a vehicle in May, whether they're new or used, doesn't matter to me. I like the idea of buying new. The point is it's not in the budget and July 1st is around the corner and it's as simple as that. It's not like we have to wait till August. We do not. And it goes back to what I asked Sheriff Matheny last week. Let us know how many cruisers you need so we're not surprised and doing a $75,000 budget revision.
I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Now, if you can get the deputies to promise not to wreck them, they're gonna get surprises.
Okay, great.
The reason this vehicle popped up, we've had 2 vehicles go down, and to Mr. Treecoff's point that, it was an old vehicle last year, it was, but it was just a priority deal for me and my department because we decided that we were gonna move forward aggressively on the rail to trail and other projects we did. So there were other one-time purchase items that we decided to move forward with that you all did as far as the equipment stuff to maintain what we have, because quite frankly, it's greatly appreciated. And you all are getting a lot of credit for a lot of the work that's being done around the county that we couldn't do before. So we're saving a lot of money by the equipment that we purchased, but it was a priority issue. And it was a safety issue with the vehicle at the garage. I didn't realize it had that kind of miles on it. I knew it was rough, and they've always got vehicles that were handed down from 911 and everything else. Matter of fact, the other truck, I asked my supervisor at the garage to proceed with, we were able to get a decent deal on rebuilding a transmission, which might not have been the best decision in the world, but we're down 2 vehicles, and it's not so bad currently right now today, but we transition into wintertime work and then good weather work. And as we do that, then we're spread out all over the county doing a lot of work. So the folks at the garage, they may bring fuel out if we're working on our 279 property to maintain it, or if we're working with Salem and the Department of Natural Resources, they bring fuel out for our equipment. We've got to take our tractor for maintenance. There's a lot of things that they do that I think flies under the radar. So yeah, that vehicle was old and it probably should have been addressed sooner, but we had other things higher up the priority list, which have paid big dividends for the county. It really has. The amount of ditching, the rail to trail work that we've been able to do. I'm going to get with Mike Book. And so all of that work out there, we're able to do in-house, it's a huge savings, huge.
Greg, what line item did the new equipment come out of?
You know, I'm not sure about that. I know Mr. Parker probably has. I really
Well,
don't.
was that the levy?
No,
Auto levy?
that would have been general county funds is where that would have came out of for maintenance items.
Well, if you were to get these 2 used trucks, are there gonna be more in the future? I mean, are we gonna be here 6 months from now? Is that something we need to allow for a budget?
You're going to need new vehicles all the time, Madam President. The point is you have to plan for them. And if you plan for them, then you can save for them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. My past experience with the assessor's office was out of all the vehicles that we had and were purchased, the 2 biggest problems we had were used vehicles, the transmissions, the engines. You're just not, you're not sure what you're getting, but anything that we get, we're appreciative of.
Yeah, but are you gonna be able to find what you need for $15,000?
We did that one other time when we bought too small a truck and we ended up trading it off. We're going down the same rabbit hole we've been down before. We're not learning from our mistakes.
Okay, well, Mr. Hinkle has made a motion to purchase 2 used trucks at $15,000 a piece, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Greens has got 2 of them underneath that, 138,000 miles.
138,000 miles. So was there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? No.
Now.
Trade the horses and wagons out.
Now, let's say, get us what you need then.
Part of the other issue is, I mean, we've had a pretty mild winter. We've got the addition of a snow plow on the one vehicle that we have. And it's worked out well with 911 because that's under the maintenance contract, so we don't have to worry about them. But our current county garage, the new sheriff's department, Parks and Rec, our Route 19 garage, and the big thing is all the employees and the liability of our parking lot. Depending on the volume of snow, if we had another vehicle that we could put a plow on, rather than come out at 2 o'clock and have to, by the time employees get back here to redo it again, we could attack that before they get here and get it salted, and that's part of it as well.
Please make that part of the package for your new vehicle.
That's all departments that need vehicles or have vehicles. They probably have to look at
That puts us in pretty good shape. It really does. I mean, we're blessed, and I really can't thank you enough because we had Before I got here, there was a tractor that it was just run into the ground, and it was a safety deal where we were down on rails of trails and there's not very much room, and there was an issue with engaging and disengaging in reverse to have somebody go over a hill. We've got an old state road tractor that our mechanic had to cut a piece of a beer can and stick it over the steering shaft where it come apart down there on the railroad trail. So some of this has been let go for a long time that the commission probably had no idea of. But we've upgraded some of this stuff, which is great because we all want to keep everybody safe. We don't want anybody getting hurt, but we're catching up. So it's not going to be an ongoing ding. We can get into a replacement mode. And I'm a stickler because of the military of people taking care of what the taxpayers are funding. I've called them back in to come in and take care of loose ends. I said, this stuff's hard to come by. We're going to maintain it or else.
I'm not trying to cut you off, but I think we this one. Okay, number 26, review, discuss, consider report from Commissioner David Hinkle on meeting of Benham Airport Authority. Mr. Hinkle.
The commission has some issues that it has to fix. It hasn't voted on 2 members of the board for a long time. The airport board needs you all to look at those 2 appointments, reappoint, re-swear them in, and supply minutes of the meetings. And for John to send copies along that they've been sealed that they're proper. Same goes for Mr. Romano, same goes for me, as far as minutes of the meeting. And they would like copies of the, where you swore them in. The other issue that you 2 have to take care of is you have to designate one of your 3 appointments to represent the commission. As it stands now, the executive board is made up 2-1, 2 in the favor of Marion County, 1 in favor of Harrison. So Marion County has control of the executive board. No 3 members that you presently have appointed may take that position because it has to be designated by you all and voted upon. And again, the minutes of the meeting have to be sent to the airport authority. So
Can they send us that in a letter form?
they get the bylaws, it's in the
Well,
bylaws.
why don't you provide that and highlight those areas for us?
But that's not helping me. You still have to decide who you're going to pick.
You're telling us we have to. I mean, I'm just trying to get some
No,
thought.
he said you people have to do that, and we do. And what we need to do is just move forward and do it.
Check with your other appointees. They were in the meeting. It has to be done. At this point, any executive decisions that are made at the airport are done by Marion County, not jointly. So this commission has to determine which person is going to represent the commission. When a commissioner is not appointed, then one has to be designated by the commission to represent the commissioners.
Next week.
Okay, we'll put that on there for next week. How's that sound?
Whenever you all want to get it done so that the board can go on about its business, but right now the board can't go on about its business. And your new president for the board is Ernie Van Gilder, who was nominated by Roger Diaz of Harrison County. Fairmont also placed 4 Democrats on the board, which was in violation of state code. I have to come back to the board with a change in that. They still proceeded to have elections, knowing that that violation was there.
Anything else?
Well, whether this commission wants to consider keeping same appointees that are on the board or find new appointees. I'm happy to answer any other questions you have about the airport and meeting.
Rico? Anything else?
Ma'am?
Number 27, review, discuss, consider proposal for evaluation of 609 West Main Street and 633 Pike Street.
As the commission is aware, we had a committee do review, qualification review under the 5G process. The recommendation was the Thrasher Group, and this is the agreement that is coming back on the scope of work that we've talked to them about during the interview process, that would be done at each property or both properties.
Do we need a vote to move forward with?
Yes,
Motion
yes.
to move forward with Thrasher.
It's 12:13 p.m.
It's been moved that we move forward with this proposal
This requires the president's signature.
and affix signature.
Motion to take your signature.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Commissioner comments, questions? Mr. Hinkle, anything further?
Ma'am.
You know, the only thing I want, Willie, can you give us and the constitutional officers an update on not who, but the number of employees that have had their shots from within the
No.
county?
I don't have access to that information.
You can't tell us how many people.
I have no idea.
Can the constitutional officers know when their department's gonna get a
I,
chance?
we're coordinating to OEM for people that have expressed an interest in getting a shot. That information has been provided. But whether any of those people have or have not, we would not know.
Okay.
I don't think we could legally ask.
Can we continue to pursue people getting their shots from within?
Yeah, I'll get with Ms. Peace. Laura Peace is the one that's coordinating that.
Just kind of get an update on where we
See
are.
where
What
the
do we
update.
need to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a priority right now. Not just for us, for any entity, I mean, for a grocery store. So, okay, that's all.
I have nothing.
Motion adjourned.
Trey has something. Oh, well.
Said we were going to return to item
Yeah.
number 12 on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
I reviewed the north and south rail trail contracts as I was sitting here. Under the May 11th, 2020 North Rail Trail contract, the commission is responsible for any overage. And speaking with Ms. Schaefer, the bid is above what was originally expressed within the contract, thus the desire to roll from the south contract into the north. I don't have any issue with it. I see it as a change order and really reading them together, it does make sense because you all are responsible for it anyway. Now, speaking to Commissioner Hinkle's question as to what exactly is the money going to be used for, under the contracts, the commission is entitled to construction contracts, specifications, design documents prior to construction commencing. Construction has not commenced, so we don't have a specific delineation of what the funds are going to be used for yet within the North Rail Trail contract, pardon me. But I would recommend that you all go ahead and roll the money from the underbid into the North project with the understanding that you're going to get the documents contractually.
How far off is the bid? Is this gonna make us even, or we still have to bring more money to the table?
The change as presented to you all says that currently, based upon the proposal, you are not going to be required to bring any more money. Now, I have not seen the bid document.
Because you're just moving the 6,200 over from the 20%.
Well,
We've already allocated, that's our share of what they're moving over. They're moving over 34,000
correct. And
in
that's
round
what,
numbers.
that's what I was going back to. But it's money that was allocated for the South Trail, it's just being
So this
reallocated.
project has not been put out to bid yet.
It has.
It has.
It has.
been, yes.
So do you have copies of what they put out to bid?
No, they don't give us that, no.
We can try and obtain that, but they don't provide that normally. The state does, now that they've handled it. Basically, they handle the process and do all administration.
We're just totally out of it now.
We just hand them the money.
We entrust it to them.
You guys are supposed to get copies pre-construction of design and probably as-built proposals, and then we could go back and get final as-builts. But we don't have those from my discussion here today.
To get those.
We don't have those yet. We haven't had those meetings yet.
Do I hear a motion on the agreement?
Move to approve.
It's been moved to approve the agreement.
Can I just give an update? Charlie's supposed to get out of the hospital today. For anybody that didn't know, so.
Move to approve the agreement. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. No opposition, motion carries.
Sorry,
It's okay.
I thought you were done.
Okay, I'll take the motion.
Adjourn.
Okay. Motion to adjourn, all in favor? Aye.
Need all three commissioners' signatures on one document and a lot from the president.
Did we adjourn? Did we adjourn?
Yes, we do.